Welcome back to Scripting for Linguists. In this video, I'd like to answer this question. When populating a dictionary with words in Julia, the Julia programming language, is it quicker to use 1, an if-else statement, or 2, a try-catch block, or 3, the get dictionary function, or 4, the default dict object? Now, in a previous video linked to above, I looked at basically these same 4 approaches in Python. Now I'd like to use Julia. And Julia, if you have not heard of that language, is a programming language that is designed to be fast and has benchmarks. They have a benchmarks page here where they pit Julia against other languages using C as the reference point. But a lot of these benchmarks here, the tests are kind of number heavy, and so I'm curious to know how Julia compares to Python with these 4 approaches that I tried in Python already. So let's take a look here. The first approach is an if-else approach, and I say if the dictionary has the key word, then increment that value by 1. If not, add it to the dictionary and give it a value of 1. Okay. And that's awesome. The second approach is the try-catch, which is comparable to the try-except in Python. Try to increment the current count of word by 1. If that fails and you get a key error because the key doesn't exist yet in the dictionary, then add that key to the dictionary with a value of 1. Awesome. And then the third option is the get function. So it's saying, hey, frequencies, get me the value associated with word. If you don't have it, give me a 0, then add 1 to it. Very much like what happens in Python. And then here, this option is the default dict object, very much like the default dict in Python. And it tries to increment. And how you do this is you create a default dict object and you give it a default value. So if it doesn't have the key, then it'll give a value of 0 there. And you have to import data structures. That function is in the data structures package in Julia. Now, to be fully transparent, I already ran all these tests before I started the video, and I'm using Julia version 1.8.5, and here are all the results. So with the if-else approach, we have 77 seconds, 75, 76, etc. We have a mean of 75.6 and a median of 75.5. And then with the next one, which is the try-catch approach, we had times of around 100 seconds, give or take. 101, 99, 106, 102, 101, 99, etc. So we had a mean of 101.3 and a median of 101.1. And then the third option was the get function, and we had times between like 72 and 75 seconds in here. And we had a mean of 73.2 seconds and a median of 72.9 seconds there. And the final option is that default dict object in Julia. And there it is right there, 88, 87, 93, 90, 89, etc. So the mean is 89.4 and the median is 88.8. Okay, so those are the times for the 4 options in Julia. And if we look at the results, which I've already put into a spreadsheet here, we can see that there's quite a bit of difference here. And that the get function is the quickest, but the if-else approach is right behind it, very close. Not much of a difference there between the get approach and the if-else approach in Julia. We do see that there's a large difference between the try-catch and the default dict approach in Julia. Okay. So going back to my previous video when I did these tests in Python, I have the results sitting right here. There they are. And what do we see here? We see, number one, that even the quickest method in Julia is still substantially longer than the quickest method or even the longest method in Python. These exact same parallel methods exist in Python and Julia. And with this particular task of going through almost 40,000 files, almost over a quarter billion words from the Spotify podcast data set, which is the data that I'm using here. The data set itself has 1 billion transcribed words. I'm only using about a third of it for this test. And even then, we see that Python is substantially shorter. I was using Python 3.11.3 for this test, and Julia 1.8.5 for this test. So that's interesting to me that Julia is faster in some domains and some applications. Here again, this is Julia's benchmarking webpage about how fast it is in comparison to other languages, which it is if you look at these particular benchmark tests. But with what linguists want to do is, for example, often is get frequencies of words out of a bunch of text files. And in this case, Python is actually quicker. With this data on my hard drive, I'm using a MacBook Pro, 2021 MacBook Pro, has 2 cores, 16 gigabytes of RAM. Kind of a base, nothing special computer. So there you have it. What the take-home messages I see here: number one, Python is quicker with this particular task than Julia. And any of these methods in Python are nearly the same, take about the same time. Get was slightly shorter. In Julia, there's a lot more variability, but again, get was the shortest, the quickest, but the if else was right behind it, and the other two are substantially longer. So, to go back here and answer this question, when populating a dictionary with words in Julia, the get dictionary function was the quickest, but again, it still takes longer than in Python, is the take-home message there. So there you have it. In this particular task, Python is quicker than Julia. Thanks for watching. See you next time.